Hi, this is Sarah. In this lecture, we will review corneal disease when planning cataract surgery. Indeed, the learning objectives of this presentation are to describe the role of certain corneal pathologies in cataract surgery. Corneal disease affects a person's vision, quality of life, and emotional well-being. Although various treatments for improvement are available, it is one of the most significant factors to consider when planning for cataract surgery. The success of a surgical outcome can be greatly influenced by the health of the cornea and the measures taken to ensure this, as well as balancing any existing abnormalities, is also extremely important to avoid adversely affecting the functional and visual outcome of the operation. In summary, here are keratectasias and corneal endothelial diseases to consider in cataract surgery, including the more common keratoconus and Fuchs corneal endothelial dystrophy, and the less common pellucid marginal degeneration and iatrogenic keratectasia. Fuchs endothelial corneal dystrophy is a condition that affects the function of the corneal endothelium, resulting in a reduction of the ability to adequately dehydrate the cornea, ultimately leading to corneal edema, which can significantly affect visual function. Clinical signs of Fuchs endothelial corneal dystrophy are often present before symptoms appear, so the condition must be recognized during preoperative assessment because a significant endothelial cell loss resulting from cataract surgery increases the risk for postoperative corneal decompensation. As a result, cataract in a patient with Fuchs endothelial corneal dystrophy needs careful preoperative, intraoperative, and postoperative considerations. As regards preoperative evaluation, corneal transplantation and cataract surgery, or triple procedure, should be discussed as an option. First, pachymetry is important, while endothelial cell density measurement is helpful but not essential. Specifically, pachymetry measurements greater than 640 micrometers and/or endothelial cell density of less than 1,000 cells per square millimeter increase the risk for corneal decompensation following cataract surgery. The backscatter technique can be used to assess the degree of edema, but it requires confocal microscopy. Considering the triple procedure, its benefits should be discussed. First, with a triple procedure, a second surgery and the risks associated with a sequential surgery can be avoided. Moreover, visual recovery is accelerated and the costs are reduced. As regards the surgical technique of cataract surgery in cases with Fuchs endothelial corneal dystrophy, special considerations should be taken to minimize intraoperative corneal endothelial cell loss and optimize visual outcomes. First, the intraocular lens should be selected with caution. The implantation of a monofocal intraocular lens is recommended. Since a hyperopic shift is expected in eyes that undergo endothelial keratoplasty due to changes in posterior corneal curvature, most surgeons target slight myopia during intraocular lens selection, typically -0.75 to -1 for DIMEC and -1 to -1.25 for DISEC. Moreover, the use of ophthalmic viscosurgical devices is necessary. The recommended technique is soft shell technique. Finally, it is advisable to create a capsulorhexis smaller than the optic of the intraocular lens, to prevent movement of the intraocular lens after its implantation. The use of trypan blue is suggested. Some tips are discussed below. To start with, the soft shell technique includes the use of dispersive viscoelastic to coat the endothelium followed by cohesive viscoelastic to form the anterior chamber. In addition, to minimize power dispersed, low phaco settings, efficient phacochop techniques, and phaco in the bag are recommended. Finally, to minimize the risk for endothelial trauma, frequent topping up of viscoelastic and avoiding the tumbling of lens fragments are suggested. Interestingly enough, femtosecond laser-assisted cataract surgery or FLACS may reduce endothelial cell loss in eyes with Fuchs endothelial corneal dystrophy, as compared to traditional phacoemulsification. In fact, in patients with dense nuclear cataracts, phacochop had significantly less endothelial cell loss when compared to divide and conquer and stop and chop techniques. Finally, the use of fortified irrigation BSS solutions may promote endothelial cell integrity. Postoperatively, patients should be informed that visual recovery may take longer than expected after cataract surgery. Management is overall the same as other cataract-extracted patients, however, more intensive and prolonged treatment with topical steroids is recommended. In case of more significant and prolonged corneal edema that can negatively impact visual acuity, 5% hypertonic saline may be necessary. Moreover, we have to ensure that intraocular pressure is under control. However, if post-cataract surgery edema persists for more than 6 weeks, preparation for endothelial keratoplasty could be discussed. According to the literature, risk factors for greater endothelial cell loss in patients with low endothelial cell count include shorter axial length, diabetes mellitus, longer phacoemulsification time, higher phacoemulsification intensity, and posterior capsular rupture. As regards corneal ectasias, keratoconus is an idiopathic, progressive ectatic condition that affects the visual function due to the irregular shape of the cornea and can be corrected with surgical and optical modalities. The clinical signs of keratoconus can be subtle and missed on cursory examination before cataract surgery. The condition must be suspected preoperatively due to the presence of astigmatism, especially if it is high and progressive, and due to symptoms of fluctuating vision that cannot be attributed to other ocular pathology. We have to remember that it is crucial to have accurate biometry measurements to avoid disappointment and surprises postoperatively. During the preoperative examination, we should take into consideration that keratoconus patients are more prone to develop cataract and/or glaucoma given the use of steroids utilized in case of allergy, phakic intraocular lenses, and corneal transplants. However, no data are available in the literature on the true prevalence of cataract in keratoconus patients. But, be careful. Before cataract surgery is considered, we should ensure the stability of the disease and assess best corrected distance visual acuity using rigid gas permeable contact lenses to eliminate the reduction in vision due to the corneal component. Caution should be taken on endothelial changes in advanced cases of ectasia, especially if rigid gas permeable contact lenses have been used for a long time. Before cataract surgery is considered, we should be sure that corneal topography does not show progression. Indeed, corneal collagen cross-linking or other procedures may need to precede cataract extraction to ensure stability and halt progression. For this reason, preoperative corneal topography is essential. For the selection of the appropriate intraocular lens, the selection of the most appropriate formula as well as the accurate measurement of the corneal power and the anterior chamber depth are really important. Consider actual keratometry readings if the K value is less than 55 diopters. For a K value of more than 55 diopters, the use of standard K values, namely 43.25 diopters, is suggested to prevent postoperative refractive surprises. There is a multitude of imaging modalities to evaluate the patient's corneal power. Overall, the Pentacam gives the most reliable results. The formulas that work better in keratoconic patients are SRKT, Kane, and Barrett Universal 2. In addition, it may be more accurate to measure anterior chamber depth using optical coherence tomography. Finally, targeting low myopia is preferable. In specific, approximately -1.5 diopters is suggested to avoid undesirable hyperopia postoperatively. As regards intraoperative management of keratoconus patients during cataract surgery, caution is required, especially when rarely keratoconus and Fuchs endothelial corneal dystrophy coexist. Due to the irregular astigmatism and the possible corneal scarring, visibility may be poor during surgery. Therefore, using vision blue and viscoelastic on the cornea may enhance visibility. Moreover, maintaining lower intraocular pressure during all stages of surgery reduces stress on an already weak cornea. Indeed, surgical-induced astigmatism may be unpredictable in already weak corneas. Wounds may be leaky due to thin, steep, and scarred cornea. Therefore, at the end of the surgery, we have to consider suturing to secure globe integrity. Finally, postoperative management after cataract surgery should not be neglected in keratoconus patients. Since keratoconus patients are more likely to suffer from higher-order aberrations, the use of monofocal intraocular lenses is recommended whenever possible. Toric intraocular lenses can be used only if the astigmatism is regular in the center of the cornea, or is regularized using rings, and the patient is unlikely to need a corneal transplant or a rigid gas-permeable contact lens. A good solution to simulate the final surgery outcome is a trial with astigmatic glasses. Last but not least, we must keep in mind that multifocal lenses should always be avoided. However, refractive surprises are common in keratoconus patients. In general, the overall treatment plan in keratoconus patients after cataract surgery is similar to that in non-keratoconus patients. Finally, we should not forget that keratoconus patients may need corneal transplants in the future. As regards postoperative visual rehabilitation, some modalities that can be used for vision improvement are glasses, rigid gas-permeable contact lenses, corneal ring segments, and refractive surgery. Of course, limbal relaxing incisions should be avoided. Furthermore, pellucid marginal degeneration is an idiopathic, ectatic disorder normally involving the inferior part of the cornea between the 4 and 8 o'clock meridians. The area of ectasia is cylindrical, rather than conic as in keratoconus, and occurs just above, rather than inside, the area of greatest thinning, creating an against-the-rule astigmatism. Pellucid marginal degeneration, similar to keratoconus, can significantly affect visual function and be corrected with surgical and optical modalities. Management of patients with pellucid marginal degeneration and cataract does not differ from keratoconus except for the fact that results with toric intraocular lenses are much better due to more accurate keratometry readings, resulting from more peripheral ectasia and good regularity of the central cornea. Finally, iatrogenic ectasia is a rare but dreadful ectatic condition usually developing as a complication after laser refractive surgery, resembling keratoconus, and affecting the visual function in a similar way. It is important to know that clinical signs predisposing to iatrogenic ectasia are often present prior to laser surgery, and appropriate preoperative assessment will help recognize patients at risk and seek an alternative available safer treatment. Management of cataracts in such patients is similar to keratoconus patients, but only after the condition has been appropriately managed and has become stable and non-progressive. In conclusion, corneal disease affects vision, quality of life, and emotional well-being. Corneal disease is one of the most significant factors to consider when planning for cataract surgery. Corneal diseases that should be considered in cataract surgery include keratoconus, Fuchs' corneal endothelial dystrophy, pellucid marginal degeneration, and iatrogenic keratectasia. Cataract in a patient with Fuchs' corneal endothelial dystrophy, keratoconus, pellucid marginal degeneration, and iatrogenic keratectasia needs careful preoperative, intraoperative, and postoperative considerations. In these slides, you can find all relevant references for further reading. Thank you all for your attention. I hope you enjoyed this presentation on cataract surgery and corneal disease, and please don't forget to run the self-evaluation tests of the lecture.